Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Marcus Colby. I'm a senior sports science consultant with Fusion Sport. You're joining us today for the best practices for injury surveillance in the military. And today I've got with me Darin Peterson. I'm going to hand it over to you, Darin, to give a quick introduction, and then I'll give a quick intro to what we're going to be discussing today. Over to you, mate.
Sounds perfect, Marcus. First of all, appreciate it. Thanks to the Fusion Sport family. Thanks to you, Marcus and Jen. Again, I'm Darin Peterson. I'm the Human Performance Director at the School of Infantry East. If you don't know what that means, that's with the United States Marine Corps. Again, the School of Infantry is right after they go to MCRD, Paris Island, then they come to the School of Infantry East. I've been there almost 14 years. Human Performance Director the last 4 years. And we got a good team going on. I'll go through a kind of our environment and how our team structure is built up. That's a quick little rundown of where I am and what we are at the School of Infantry East.
Perfect. Thank you, Darren. So I guess, just to set the scene for today and what we'll be discussing for those attending. We're going to have a look at in depth, I guess, Darren's environment and the different challenges we have for that environment, both the massive numbers coming through that school, and then also how do you still have an individualized approach from an injury prevention standpoint, digging into what we're seeing injury-wise in that environment, Darren's kind of philosophies around prevention and how we can approach that, and then how we've used data to survey potential injuries before they happen, as well as actual injuries, and then that rehab process off the back of that. So as you alluded to, Darren, I think, that's a good point to start with in terms of the structure of the team. So if you want to kind of just talk through your kind of high performance environment, and I'm always curious as the challenges that you're facing currently and what you've got set up at the moment.
Awesome. So right now we're made up, we have 2 full-time strength and conditioning coaches. We have 4 full-time athletic trainers. Then we have our SMART clinic team, which is really a Navy rehab and sports medicine physician team, but they're housed in our Human Performance Center. That's the current structure that we have is owned by the Marine Corps. We fall under an 06 commander, and we're a special staff section for our colonel. We fall directly under the colonel. We fall under his guidance. We align ourselves with his mission. He puts out what he wants to see, and we align ourselves with that. I'll be honest, kind of the Smarter Base is the hub of everything we do as far as technology, as far as information gathering. That's the center of how we get, 1, collect information, but 2, distribute it to our commands and leadership for decision making. We're not decision makers. We're information collectors and providers, specialties in our given field. It's a multidisciplinary team, but we want our Marines and our uniform guys to be able to make decisions, and that's kind of why we're doing what we do. Marcus, you alluded a little bit to the challenges, right? The biggest challenge we face is the sheer number. We have an annual throughput of almost 20,000 Marines, 17,000 to 17,500 entry-level students come to us every single year, and then about 2,000 to 3,000 advanced level students. They're coming off their first, second, third deployment. They're a little bit different when it comes to those advanced courses in duration, time, and how long we have them at the School of Infantry. But that's the challenge, right? With a staff of 6 people, 7 including myself. But really my staff, they're phenomenal. They're the ones that do all the work. They do great things, really working miracles every day. When you're talking 20,000 people annually at any given time at the school, we're probably 2,500 to 4,000 Marines on base, and 6 people to initially triage, rehabilitate, and treat those guys, and as well as performance programming and movement competency, post hike mobility classes, different things like that. That becomes a challenge with two strength coaches out there doing that. And that's probably our biggest challenge right now. We're looking at growing that staff. We have some plans in place, but our guys just work their butts off to make up for the lack of resourcing right now. The one resource we do have is some time, and we take advantage of that. We work long hours. We do a lot of different things, but our team comes first, and that's kind of our focus is the team first, and then we'll take care of the Marines after that. But our motto is invest in the individual. That includes our team, not just the Marine, but that's what we kind of live by, and that's what we go by every day.
Absolutely. And you kind of mentioned there, and something we've spoken a lot about in the past, is that triage process, and
Right.
and how you're able to get people through your environment, screen them from a movement competency standpoint, strength and conditioning. So how strong are they? How are they looking coming into the program? So maybe you could just talk a little bit to that process. I guess from my perspective, from a consultant side, like really understanding the flow of an environment is really important for putting systems and processes in place. Like simple things like, where do we put the iPad? Like it's you wouldn't think it should be part of a role, but it often is. So if you could kind of talk to that process, how you're able to set up your environment to get such masses through a movement screen, through a strength and conditioning profile. I think, to me, that's one of the smoothest operating systems I'm seeing in that respect.
Sure. So I'll take a swag at that. And that process is always evolving, right? I want people to know that process is always being manipulated and adapted to make it more efficient. But right now, our current process is we do this every Monday. So our new Marines show up every Saturday, with the exception of 3 to 4 weeks a year. But other than that, this happens every single week at SOI East. New Marines show up on Saturday. We in-process them first thing Monday morning. So about in between 05 and 06 every Monday morning, we're uploading the roster of the entire company that's going to pick up. So anywhere between 300 up to 500 to 600 Marines are going to be processed in any given day. That roster is uploaded first thing in the morning. They go through and they talk to a certified athletic trainer, kind of their musculoskeletal history, whether it's surgical, whether it's injuries, limited light duty, those types of things. After they're screened by the athletic trainer, they're seen by one of our regimental corpsmen and one of the medical staff to make sure that they have all their vaccinations, their immunizations, and they're good to go, really, to train. Once those two processes have been checked off, they go right outside to one of our strength and conditioning coaches. They go through and actually participate in a dynamic warm-up. It takes 2, 3, 4 minutes for a group of 30 to 50 to go through with one of our coaches. And then as soon as they complete that warm-up, it's for a reason. One, to learn it, but two, to really get them warmed up. We take them straight into that counter movement jump, and that's loaded and unloaded. So unloaded being with a broomstick, loaded being with a 45-pound barbell. And we're collecting data right now to get at a predictive type model. We're still in the data collection process now, but we're looking at, hey, how does the application of force and the application of power relate to success in training? We've seen some and kind of identified some movement deficiencies through doing that counter movement jump and kind of that functional screening process with our strength and conditioning coaches. And we've been able to influence the POIs and do different things. We're not necessarily pulling somebody out of training because they didn't get a certain force production during that, but we're looking at developing that model over time. Right now, we're using it for the masses and getting after that with those identified movement deficiencies. And then once they're done with that counter movement jump, if they're infantry, they'll go into a strength and power assessment with right now a 3 to 5 rep max weight hex bar deadlift, 1 rep max pull up. So we'll add weight to their body. so they can only do 1 rep of a pull-up. And then we take the 3-mile run time from their PFT to kind of get after some physiological systems that aren't already tested in the Marine Corps. The PFT, CFT do a good job of testing aerobic endurance, muscular endurance, and those things. But there's a gap right now in true strength assessment and power. So we just view it as an opportunity to get after something that's missing. I think there'll be an opportunity institutionally as we move forward to collect that data. But right now we just see it as an opportunity at SOI East to get after that because we have some capabilities.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Like I said, I think, getting those type of numbers through an environment pretty quickly is impressive in that respect. Right. So kudos to that. But I guess through that process, from your lens, what are the type of injuries that you're seeing as part of the screening as an initial standpoint? And then what are the other injuries from a say a surveillance standpoint that you're seeing across the program that you're typically dealing with?
Right. So I'll kind of lump those into 2 different bins as we answer this a little bit. So we have our entry level students, which are normally 18 to 25-ish in age. A lot of the injuries we see from them are stress related. Those overuse type of injuries that have happened over time. Whether it's a stress fracture in the metatarsal, stress fracture in the lower leg and the tibia. We see a lot of that in the entry level. And we go through the rehabilitation process with those folks from really cradle to grave. Our athletic trainers are the first ones to evaluate any musculoskeletal injury of any Marine that comes through the school. And then they take them all the way up until they're returned to full duty again by our sports med physician. So there's continuity of care throughout with that. But then that second bin is really our staff and our permanent personnel. That's a different age group. That's a different population. A lot of these guys have been in the Marine Corps 20 plus years. They're the physically demanding MOSs that they go through. They have some chronic ailments, some, that back pain that's been there for years. The articular surface is completely worn off of joints and they need some type of surgical intervention. That's what we see with our older population. And we it's a daily quality of life type thing. How can we make them feel better every single day? How can they get home and play with their kids? How can we make it to the point where, hey, this guy or gal is going to retire in a year? Well, we need to make sure everything's documented for them. So when they retire, they're taken care of because they've taken care of us as a country for however many years that they've been in. But 2, when they retire, are they going to be able to play with their kids? Are they going to be able to play with their grandkids? And that's really important to us. It's not just, can we mask the pain till they get out? It's truly giving them some quality of life after they leave the service. And again, I think the hub for that and what we've been able to do document wise is everything we do that goes into the electronic health record goes into Smartabase first. So we put everything live. Our evals and everything are right in Smartabase. So it's live right there. The patient and the athletic trainer are interacting with each other, but the data is going straight into this hub. And then we can pull it out and just copy and paste it into the electronic health record of the Marine. So for us, it creates efficiencies so we can see more people during the day. For the Marine, it allows us to do more hands-on. I can now spend an hour plus with that person doing different modalities, doing different treatment techniques, and allows us that versus having to cut the day short and really concentrate on documentation, because the documentation right now is live and exists there.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's great. So something we've had a good chat about in the past as well, and I want to kind of discuss today as well, is the nature of prevention as well. So when we often speak about injury surveillance, it's like, okay, let's wait for all the injuries to happen and then we'll survey what's going wrong and then do something about it. So something that I think your program has been really successful with is that proactive prevention. So through your your screening process, through your onboarding and kind of work with the individual Marine. And now that you've got those efficiencies to have that time, you've been able to kind of intervene at the mass or at the group level, and then not be, I guess, as reactive to your approach in terms of injuries. So could you kind of talk to some scenarios that you've come across there, and then any changes you've made maybe at the group level, just considering how many numbers are coming through your program?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a great segue from what we were just talking about. I would say that we really got proactive 2017, 2018 when we introduced the strength and conditioning coaches to our staff. That is the true model of prevention. Our athletic trainers, they do a great job of getting after injuries and getting after the rehabilitation process. But at that point, right, the what we call bang, or the injury, has already happened. So we can identify trends over time with the injuries and the tracking that we use. But how do we really truly prevent injuries is through our strength and conditioning coaches, getting after what is that warm up that we teach them on day one? What is post hike recovery for the masses? If we have a hike and it was a company of 400 people, I got one strength and conditioning coach out there doing post hike mobility and recovery modalities with all of those Marines. If anybody out there ever wants to see it, I'll be happy to share links of how that looks. It's a little crazy, but at the same time, it's pretty motivating. How we get around the masses or to the masses, Marcus, as you asked, it's identifying those movement deficiencies or those movement qualities that are maybe a little bit lacking. It's not necessarily a weakness, because I wouldn't call it a weakness. We're not there to tell them they can't train. It's more, hey, have we identified that we got a lot of posterior chain strength issues? Is it a core stability issue? Is it that we just don't have the movement competency or the mobility within the Marines? And we've identified that over time, but again, we're not going to pull an individual Marine out of training. We can now develop our POIs, our programs of instruction, and our education that's delivered to the Marine on a daily basis, so that every Marine gets those adaptations and gets those changes to their training protocol. It's really cool that our coaches have been able to design programs for the masses. We got groups of 200 plus on programs, and every single day they're doing a training log and a training program that's delivered to them right on their cell phone. So we get subjective data before they start the training program. They go through their training program, and we get RPE and different things afterwards. Subjective, yes, but that's always good information too. How much did you sleep? What do you feel like your nutrition's been for the last 24, 48 hours? How hard was the training session? If the training session's a little too easy, and I don't just mean the PT card of the day, how much weight did you lift, but how hard, if we did land nav for the last 3 days and our training is synced to, our physical training is synced to the infantry or tactical training that is occurring. It's not two different things that are just layered on top of each other. We sit in rooms, and our strength coaches organize this with the chief instructors, so that the tactical training that's going on, we mirror that with the PT events to provide, hey, we're going to do a recovery session for 30 minutes after we do land nav for 2 days or for the entire 8 to 10 hour day. That's really important. That educational piece, I think, is the key component to why we've been able to be so successful. And our guys continue, like I said, to adapt and get after that every day. I see there is a question on here of how what we did before we had Smartabase, right? A lot of Excel, a lot of just running with different tracking logs and counting numbers. I only got 10 fingers and 10 toes, and it takes a long time to count up Marines over an annual period. And this has just been, Smartabase has been the game changer for us for efficiencies. Like I said, for that live data entry for injury risk, or for injury evaluations, excuse me, but also for all of our counter movement jumps, for all of our PT cards, whether it's a test of upper body strength, lower body power, lower body strength, our MISPAS events, which are MOS specific physical standards, all of our hike times, whether they're going from 5 kilometers all the way up to 20 kilometers, and we do a 32 kilometer hike now on our new infantry course. We're able to track that and now compare it with different dashboards and different things, so we can single out one Marine versus the class average. We can single it out squad versus squad. We can really get creative, and that's been not just us at SOI East. I'm telling that the Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute at West Virginia has been an integral part of that. Josh and his team, just, we would be nowhere without those guys and the support of ONR to do these things. It's a total team effort. So kudos to them just as much as my team, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for jumping on that one. I was gonna swing in there at some point, but that's perfect. So I guess, in terms of the different data points that you've collected, what's kind of been the most meaningful, I guess, to date? You kind of spoke to some of the screening, changing the group level program. Is that probably been the most impactful, or what have you kind of seen from what you've collected?
I think so. I think the group performance programming has really been the most impactful, but also allows us to do real-time changes. If we have a group of Marines in the field and they're just crushed after 3 or 4 days in the field, and we had a PT card that was going to be pretty taxing on them, that squad leader now can reach directly back to us in live real time, and we can change the card, or they can change the card because they've done training with us, kind of train the trainer of, hey, I changed the card to this based on my squad and their ability to perform right now. So that live interaction to us is really irreplaceable, because we can plan all day within a bubble. If we're not getting after what the Marines need in real time, it's a waste, or they're just not going to do it. So that coupled with the ability to do more and create those efficiencies, because everything's live, and not double, triple documenting. At one point, we were doing the same documentation handwritten, then taking the handwritten documentation and typing it up, whether it be on a PDF or a Word document, and then typing it again in the electronic health record of the Marine, because those things weren't transferable. Like I said, now through building that injury eval within Smartabase, we have drop-down menus. We have a lot of different things where we can just click and touch, and now it's more interactive with the Marine. We can show them a body diagram that's right there, and they can tell us where it hurts on the body diagram versus trying to just point at it on their own body. That really helps us. That really helps us, one, not just to interact with the Marine, but interact with each other and interact with our sports medicine teams, our strength and conditioning coaches. How do we build those performance programs to get after somebody that has been in rehab or been in the injury pipeline for 6 months or 9 months post-surgical? How do we bridge that gap? Because we know they've lost some valuable skills, whether it's load bearing, whether it's that rucking ability and that type of thing. Our strength coaches can now build a better return to duty program, so that Marine, when they go back, they're cleared hot to train, but they're really ready to train. And I think that for us in years past that was the difference. We would clear people when we felt like they were ready to train radiographically and subjectively. This has helped us take some of the subjectivity out of it, with the counter movement jumps that I mentioned before, the Marine has to be within 90% of that initial baseline that they do on day one. If they don't get to within 90%, they're not going to training until they get there. So it takes a quantitative, like a true data point, a quantitative data point, and puts a marker on it. You have to be here to be cleared. So it takes some emotion out of it for us, and it takes some emotion out of it for the Marine, because they know the expectation immediately.
Fantastic. No, that's great. We might grab this question just on that
Sure.
that aspect of the different data points. So yeah, looking at the fitness assessments that you've made, and any kind of relations there to separation. So did they get a score in a particular test that was maybe associated with someone having a better chance of failing or falling out of the program?
Right. To be honest, we're not there yet. We're collecting the data, and that's one of the things we really want to get after is, can we get back into that, or into that predictive modeling? But through those assessments and different things, we're trying to correlate that with success in the training pipeline. Is it a force production score? Is it or is it a deadlift score when it comes to our infantry Marines? Is it a movement screen that they do with our athletic trainers and our strength coaches? We're just not there. It takes a lot of data and a lot of time to be able to get after and justifying pulling a Marine out of training, because it's a different mentality. And if they get into the training pipeline, they're going to push through normally until they break, or they just can continue on the process, and we never see them. So it's very hard to justify right now without that data set pulling somebody out of training. I think we'll get there eventually, and we'll do some more predictive modeling. But just to answer that question truthfully, we're just not quite there to pull an individual Marine out. But back to the initial, what I mentioned earlier, we are able to identify those trends and identify those things that we can affect through the POI. So if we know everybody has tight hip flexors, we do a lot of different stretching modalities and a lot of different modalities to get after that for everybody. So even though I had one Marine that might have been dropped for that type of thing, I didn't drop them, or we didn't drop them. It's not but our team didn't drop them. But now everybody's doing those stretches, and everybody's doing those things post hike, because we know if it's affecting one person, it's probably going to affect the masses, because they're all doing the same training day in and day out. I hope that kind of answers it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And yeah, I think in this space, we can definitely, I guess, start to collect things for a few months, not even years, and then hope to make those associations straight away. But
Right.
Often we don't have, from a stats standpoint, the statistical power to be kind of confident that it's going to be a true inference, and there's not, say, too much error. But I think in this space, as things continue to expand, and just given the numbers that you're getting through the program, like we'll definitely have some data in the years to come to run that type of analysis, which would be pretty cool for sure.
Right. And one thing we've really developed lately through the creation of the dashboards and some things that West Virginia has been able to help us do are really these leaderboards and the effect of those, because competition has been wonderful within the training pipeline and within the Marine Corps. Through these leaderboards, now we can, again, compare Marines to the entire company. We can do squad versus squad. And those performance metrics, while we're not using that to necessarily weed people out or use it as an attrition tool, we're using it as a competition tool to just really get after increasing performance and increasing what happens on a day in and day out basis within the squad, within the company. That's been a super cool effect. And inversely allows our leadership at any given point to have a direct pulse on where that company is, and where even down to the individual Marine, on where they're at compared to their peers. and where that company is compared to the previous company. So that's really good from a leadership perspective. They have a big macro view, but then our individual Marines have this micro view of where they are and what they need to work on.
Absolutely. That's great. All right. So one last kind of question here, just to wrap up.
Sure.
So I guess from your lens and what you guys have achieved so far across the program, what do you think the future kind of looks like for your prevention strategies? And say if you were to take a guess for the military as a whole as well.
Right. I think the future and the next step that I would push for are, again, those collaborative efforts, one within all the services across the military. We all, my section and my team, I mean, again, they're rock stars. If we didn't have, Chris and Lacey and their two teams, sports med and strength and conditioning, we wouldn't be where we're at. But I think more collaborative efforts with all the different services, lessons learned, best practices, what they're doing, because I think we can all talk about cool things that we're doing. But what I really want to hear is sometimes what they've tried that didn't work, so that we're not going to waste our time trying the same thing and getting the same result. Pretty sure somebody at some point said the definition of that was insanity. But I would say those collaborative efforts between all the services, but also venturing out again into the sport world. What are they doing when it comes to technology? What are they doing to address similar problems? For us, again, it's stress type injuries with our young population, and then those chronic type ailments with our older population, and they're not old, but just years of just pounding on their body because of the physical demands of the MOS and of the service, and really what's required of them during combat. It's a complicated problem, but I think we're all viewing that problem through different lenses, and it'd be cool to just sit in a room and chat. So yeah, that's where I see us going with this for sure.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Awesome. All right. So I think we might make it a wrap there in terms of the discussion, not to go on for too long. I really appreciate the insights, Darren, and I'm sure our attendees did as well. And we got some really thoughtful questions there and some feedback as well in terms of continuing this collaboration. So what we'll look to do for the group is send out this recording, obviously, to allow you to share with your peers and use as a discussion point. Darren, how can people get in contact with you, just quickly, if you're happy?
Absolutely. So they can reach out to me directly to my email. It's Darin, DARIN .Peterson, PETERSON @usmc.mil, like military. Or they can email the entire team at all one word, SOI-E human performance @gmail.com. And I'll also give our main office line to anybody that's interested. They can call us directly. It's 910-449-0494. And again, they can just call, ask for me, ask for any of my team. They're probably going to be able to answer the question a lot better than I could anyway. So anybody on the team will be able to help them out. If anybody has any direct problems or issues or ideas for us, I'm all open ears, and my team, again, will do a great job of getting after it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks again, mate. It's always good to chat. And then, as Darren alluded to, reach out if you've got any questions on the use of Spartabase. Feel free to touch base with our team. We will get this recording out to the masses and make sure we get some feedback, like we've discussed. And looking forward to further questions in this space. Thanks again, Darren.
Thanks, Marcus. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending.